My name is Glenn Edwards, and this is a collaboration between Africa Welsh News, Hub Cymru Africa and Sub-Sahara Advisory Panel. I'm here to talk to Dr Salamatu Fada, PhD in Conservation Biology, originally from Nigeria, now residing in Bangor, North Wales. I know as a 6-year-old, your parents would take you on holiday to Yankari Game Reserve, and I wonder how those visits with your mum and dad sparked a lifelong interest in conservation.
Thank you very much, Glenn. That 6-year-old was just growing in a family that enjoyed going for holidays in Yankari. My mom particularly enjoyed Yankari because it was the nearest game reserve from the city we lived in, Bauchi State, Nigeria. So every time she got tired or overwhelmed or just wanted to distress, she would just put us all in the car and we would go. Early enough, I was able to connect with nature. I was able to appreciate the plants, the animals, the quietness of nature, the nature reserve. And so Yankari became very dear to me. Then it was just tourism, us enjoying Yankari as tourists. But I didn't know it stuck with me till I grew up and wanted to choose a career path that I found myself really focusing on geography, biogeography, trying to understand what happens in systems like that, national parks, nature reserves, why are plants changing in composition, in abundance, why are animals depleting, what is really going on in the system. Then I became a scientist, but it was originally just a tourist, but those things I observed when I was 6 years old really stayed with me and still stay with me till this day.
I mean, what was it that captured the imagination of a child? Was it the animals, the fauna, or just simply the space that was so different to where you lived?
I think it was everything. I loved the animals. Up to today, elephants are my best animals. And there have been animals in Yankari since then till today. But I also took note of the vegetation because it was different from other places. It was a nature reserve that was protected. So the grasses there were taller, the trees were bigger, and it was thick. So the animals found it safe. They found it as home and they stayed. So it was really everything, the animals, the plants, and the fact that just very few people stayed in the reserve. And so you could just go there and really connect. And they have a wonderful, wonderful warm spring. It stays at 31 degrees centigrade and it's warm, it's lovely, and we just enjoyed just playing in the water, swimming and all that. Yeah. Before I started PhD, I was already employed by University of Jos. I was employed to teach one of the areas in physical geography. And I chose biogeography. It was just natural because it was just what was dear to me.
Okay, and where was home?
Generally, I would say northern Nigeria, so northeastern Nigeria. That is what I call home.
Okay, but
yes.
home now.
No, home now
is Bangor.
Yes, home now is Bangor. I still see Nigeria as home. So I have 2 homes. Better than many people.
Absolutely. Why Bangor?
Okay, like I said, because I'm an academic in the University of Jos, the expectation is that I do a PhD and become a professor, which is the peak of my career as an academic. So I actually started PhD in 2008 in Bauchi, in ATBU University. It's a university of technology. And after the 3rd year, it seemed that there wasn't somebody that was competent to supervise my work, because I was looking at aspects of biodiversity and how climate change impacts on those aspects. And I struggled to find a supervisor. And so I looked up some universities overseas I checked Canada and some here, Leeds, and a few around, and ended up with Bangor. And then I had a few colleagues from the same university in Nigeria that were in Bangor, and they said, check if it's something that you want to do. And lo and behold, I found the School of Environment. So it was just sort of natural, I just hit it. This is what I want. So just even by seeing pictures and reading about it, studying the website, I just knew that I had to come to Bangor.
What about culturally, Nigeria to Bangor?
Culturally, I may not say culturally. I may probably say weather. More weather than culture. Because in Nigeria we have just the wet season and the dry season. But here there are 4 seasons. And you get to summer where, it doesn't want to get dark. And you stay up till 9:30, 10 p.m. before it gets dark. And you go to winter, and some winters at 4 p.m. it's already dark. So it was really strange, and then clocks have to change from time to time. So that was a big adjustment. But culturally, honestly, I didn't see it as huge. So it was just get on with the work. And then we had, of course, a very supportive church, which is also multicultural. Bangor itself generally is multicultural. So it wasn't really so different. What we struggled with initially would be food. So I had to drive to Manchester or Liverpool to buy African food, because when we came immediately, of course, the children were not exposed to eating the foods per se. It's the same food, but they are prepared differently. So I had to go all the way to buy foods that they would like or that they knew. And then, of course, also to make our hair, to make our braids. I had to go to Manchester for me and Vanessa, my daughter, to get our hair made. With the boys, I have 3 boys. With the boys, I just had to go to Argos and buy a clipper. And I came and chopped their head the first time. But, I learned how to do their hair. But generally, it was a smooth sort of move. It wasn't so. Bangor is not difficult. In fact, Wales is not difficult. The people are open and warm and friendly. So it wasn't bad.
If we stick with the education before moving on to other things, obviously you've gone through university, you've got your PhD. How have you used that from an educational point of view since you've left uni? Or have you left uni?
No, I haven't left uni per se. When I finished my PhD in 2015, graduated in 2016, I stayed back to do a postdoc in the same university, working with the same supervisor I had, Professor Andrew Pulling. So we worked very closely together. And what we were doing was trying to sort of update management plan of Yankari Game Reserve again. So that was the thing I did immediately when I finished my PhD. But I resumed my duties as a lecturer in University of Jos in Nigeria, but not for too long, because the children needed me. They were in school here and they needed my support. So I had to go on leave of absence, for years just to support them. But it didn't stop me from still working. So I was able to volunteer in different areas to apply my knowledge in here in Wales as well as in Nigeria. So I went into practical conservation work of elephant conservation, of hippo conservation, of removing invasives in Snowdonia National Park here, of organizing and starting the Great Big Green Week to create awareness about climate change, climate crisis, and nature crisis. We started the Climate Cymru as well, and we have been running different campaigns to call government's attention to the things that matter in the environment sector. So I have not stopped. Now we have created the Coalition of Conservation Biologists in Nigeria, and we meet, we do seminars, we do celebrate nature days, international days. We engage with stakeholders on the things that matter, trying to mitigate against climate change through different strategies, and also trying to conserve nature and also not only conserve but to build awareness about the kind of wildlife we have also in Nigeria, in Africa. Just being the voice that I normally not heard.
With the internet, the African youth climate activists that you work with in Nigeria, that you can do workshops online.
I do with the young climate activists. It's not just only Nigerian. No, there are people from Congo, there are people from Malawi, there are people from Southern Africa, there are people from Mauritius, just different places in Africa. I have young people that want to, most of them have their projects, but they just need to be guided on how they can do things better and also how they can find grants and develop the skills, the needed skills they need for their work.
So it's not necessarily the same project, that they've all got their individual projects.
Yes, they have their individual projects. One of them is focused on plastic. So her project is plastic-wise, and she's done very well. In fact, just recently, she was selected as a finalist in Nigeria, and she had to go to one of the countries in East Africa to compete with others. So they already have their projects, but what we want to do is to give them the umbrella to do better and give them all the support to fly. I feel that what they're doing individually, in their communities, in their universities, is important enough. We don't have to bring them all together. No, we can come together for training, for information, to support each other, or meet for bigger meetings like the COP meeting, but they're doing well.
And what about funding these projects? Do you give advice on how they can get?
Absolutely. We have annual funding pockets, and some are annual, some are biannual, some haven't even come yet. So we have different types of funding in conservation, in climate change, in whatever, and we make it a duty to watch out for these calls, then share the links and call the attention of these young people, and not only young people, even older people, even professors. Sometimes they have the competence to do the work, but they don't have the funding. So we call their attention and we put ourselves into different clusters and apply for funding, and that helps us to do the conservation work. I always advise. I also carry out trainings, not only for youth, but even for early career, mid-career university lecturers. I train them on how to write winning proposals. So it's part of the things I have done. I've got the skill, while I was here in Bangor University, and I graciously share it with a lot of people. And it has helped quite a few people to get the funding and push them to do their work.
But it's not just young people that you're involved with, is it? We've got higher education, we've got adult learning. So it's the broad spectrum of age group that you're dealing with.
Yes. With adult learning, I was invited to be a council member and to advise at that level. And so I started just as a councillor because of my expertise dealing with adults, learners in university, and those that come part-time to learn during summer in Nigeria. I was put in the Learner Experience Committee, and so I've contributed on that platform to the point that now I'm the chair of the Learners Experience Committee and then the vice chair of the whole Adult Learning Wales. But adult learning, I have understood how important adult learning is, and I think Catherine Robson, the chief executive of Adult Learning Wales, and her team are doing a fantastic work, especially during the COVID. It was such a difficult time, and they were very quick to switch from the face-to-face to online teaching and learning and get the learners to engage. It was just fantastic. And I just watch them as the challenges come up. They are very quick to find strategies to adapt, and then they come to us. Honestly, I must give them the credit. Most of the time, before they come to us, they have something good enough to present, and then we just take the vote whether it should stay or go. Yeah, I see myself there again for maybe a couple of years.
Do you find it different to teach younger people? Is there a different tactic to teach them? Is it very similar because they have the passion the same as you?
I think that as a teacher with diverse groups of people that I teach, I think that I apply different methods, because the way you can engage younger people that are just teenagers or their early 20s and they are free and they are, is different from the way you approach people that are older, that have family problems, maybe caring roles, maybe dealing with different sort of things. Life throws different things at us. I meet them where they are, and I find it very rewarding, and I have received very, very excellent feedback because of the way I engage them. You just meet people where they are. Just remember to have a kind face, because people are dealing with issues that are always not, put out on the table. So but that does not mean that you make the teaching substandard in any way. No, but it's just the way you teach it.
We go to 2018. The North Wales African Society was founded to basically establish links between Africa and Wales. Why did you decide that it was needed?
When I moved here in 2011 with my 4 children, all very young, the oldest was 10 plus, the youngest had just turned 2. Like I said earlier, we struggled with food immediately, and then we struggled with many things that we couldn't readily find information about. So I immediately became sort of the go-to person as international students came in afterwards, because they saw that I had survived with 4 children, single parent, still doing a PhD. They saw that I survived. And so I became more and more the go-to person, and it was becoming overwhelming. And my dear friend, also Liz Millman, came one day to the house and she said, "Sally, why don't you try this?" She said, "We need a black person to really be involved with black people here." And I said, yes, I could do it, but I'm very busy. I have just a short break now because I just finished as a consultant to the Bauchi state government at the time. And I said, somebody will soon start looking for me. So I don't know if I have the time. She said, just start. And I said, okay, I'll think about it. So I thought about it a bit. And one day I just got up and told my daughter, let's go and see the mayor. And she said, for what, Mom? I said, let's just go. So we took a stroll to the mayor. Then it was Mayor John Wynne Jones, and we just had coffee with him. And I said to him, I think that it's important we set up an African society. So it was me and him that decided that it was going to be called Gwyneth Africa Society. And he said, people usually come here to take something. They want this, they want that. Who comes and says, I want to give myself to service? I said, anyway, I just thought that I could do it because the African society is growing and they need an organized structure for support. So that was how it started on the 13th of September 2018. Within a year, we had a committee, and then we used to have meetings in my house. So we had a meeting, a monthly meeting, and then the committee members said, everyone is complaining that you in Gwyneth organized yourselves only and said your Gwyneth Africa Society. How about the other counties? The least we can do is to make it North Wales Africa Society. It wasn't easy for me to accept that because I thought that this is too much. But somehow, I slept over it, chatted with my children. They are my mini advisors, After a couple of days, I said, let's do it. Let's do it. It's needed. So we started, and I'm happy to say that we're 400 plus counting now. We've got, this 400 is just on the WhatsApp group. We've got children that are not included. I alone have 4 children. Some people have 3 children. Some people have 4. Some people have 5. Some have 2. So it's just a huge, huge number we have. Now we have the North Wales Africa Centre. We call it Bangor Africa and Caribbean Centre on the High Street that we use often for different things. Activities, children go there for paintings, for drawings, dancing, so many things. The students also use the place on Thursdays for their games. Recently, I collected the key last week of a space at the train station. So we are going to do a bicycle hub. We got some funding from National Lottery, and we're going to do a bicycle hub with 40 bicycles. And people can go there, take a bike, go about their business. At the end of the day, return it. Also, we have 2 people now that are partially employed because of North Wales Africa Society. And we've won a few awards, doing this great work, and it's going good, very good.
So it's had quite an impact on the community in North Wales. Do you think it's also given people a confidence that there is somewhere that they can go and talk to people?
Absolutely. Many people now that are coming to Bangor or are just arriving, the newbies, just either walk into the African Center or send us a message through our Facebook or through our website. There is the place that you can send a message and somebody would answer you. Even if it is beans you're looking for, black-eyed beans or crayfish or hair extensions, or African fabrics, we have them now. It wasn't like that before. Last year, we struggled, like I said, because a lot of people came in. We struggled with housing, and I had to raise it in different meetings and platforms. And also we raised, even amongst us, there are people that have supported. Talk to landlords, talk to the council, talk to everybody to support, and it's working. People are settled to a large extent.
This concludes the first half of a fascinating insight into the world of Salamatu Fada. Don't miss the second instalment when Salamatu discusses the issues of and work in conservation, climate change, and becoming the first Black African councillor in Bangor. This is a collaboration between Africa Welsh News, Hub Cymru Africa, and Sub-Saharan Advisory Panel. Welcome to part 2 of our conversation with Dr Salamatu Fada from Nigeria, now in Bangor, PhD in Conservation Biology, founder of the North Wales Africa Society, politician, teacher and campaigner for conservation and global warming. This is a collaboration between Africa Welsh News, Hub Cymru Africa and Sub-Saharan Advisory Panel. Just like to talk to you a little bit about JAVS, Javs, and which is in Nigeria, and is it Talafi?
Yes,
Talafi, which is in Wales.
JAVS is a company, is an environmental care company, and I decided to set up that company. It's a limited liability company registered in Nigeria, and I set it up because that is what I use to do consultancy work, either for government or for businesses or individuals, whoever needs. Most of it is advice, but I have also done on-the-ground work. We set it up because of the very many environmental problems on ground, ranging from flooding to erosions to waste management, just very many, including, of course, climate change now, because I'm very big now on climate action. So we try to advise people how and guide them on how they can work at the grassroots level, as much as also try to make them push for protests, campaigns that are sensible to draw the attention of lawmakers, because doing both can bring change, impact and change. So the company is doing well. Sometimes it suffers because I tend to use a lot of energy on my charities more than the company. Sometimes I say it's because I don't have a business head. But it is doing well. We have so many projects now on ground, like the hippo work and the elephant work. They all are associated with JAVs. This year, in January, I had to go to Wichao to look at a good model. It's a hippo sanctuary in northern Ghana, and we're looking to find solutions for human-wildlife conflict, hippo and farmer-fisherman conflicts in that Inkoa, northern Nigeria. So it was JAVs that sponsored that trip. Telefi actually is a child of my conservation work. So Telefi came about because of working on the human dimension, so looking at social issues in conservation. So as we work in national parks and game reserves, we try to work with the people. And these people usually are situated in communities around national parks, in their villages. And you want to engage with them to understand where they're coming from. You know, why the poaching, why the illegal harvesting, why all these issues. And as you go and engage with them, you find out that they have their own problems as well with the way things are being managed by the national parks and the government. And you find out that these people don't have schools, they don't have water, they don't have electricity, they don't have roads, too many problems. So I have tried to call the attention of many people, including the government, about, coming to the aid of these people. The government is doing their bit, but it's not as much as it is needed. And so in 2019, I decided, okay, I'm going to start a charity to empower these local communities, because I can't keep writing and going to knock on anybody's door. Let me see what I can do a little bit. And so we started and we picked a village around Yankari, and it's called Kargo. That was our first village. We picked it, and the first thing was they didn't have classrooms. What they had dilapidated to the point that it was falling down. So we had to knock it off. We got some money through the World Bank assisted projects. We got some money. We were able to build them a block of classroom with 3 rooms. We were able to supply solar lamps in the community. So now they have light. They've never had it before. And now we're exploring how we can get them water to use through rain harvest. We've tried underground. It's impossible. It's very bad. In fact, all the surveys that were done there, I had to bring the documents to Welsh Water, and the engineers, after seeing it, said, no, this is hopeless. So we are trying to explore other ways to get them water. If we don't get this water for them, usually what they do is to send the school children to go and fetch water in the morning before they can be released to go to school. And that is affecting enrollment and attendance. So we want to sort that out. Apart from Kargo, we have done also teacher training, pupils training, just trying out things to empower them. But apart from Kargo in Bauchi, we also have a site in Gombe State. We have another site in Plateau State and another one in Kebbi. So we are growing with Sadlefi.
You've got Greta Thunberg and Attenborough on TV all the time, banging the drum. As the man on the street, I don't see much change. And maybe you can tell me different, but I see governments and I see the major countries still churning out clouds of whatever. And can you tell me different? Is it actually working, all of this campaigning? And I know that it has to be done, and you have to keep pushing and you have to keep banging the drum. What is actually happening?
Oh, David, bless him. David is originally a journalist, and he's a fantastic storyteller and narrator of the natural world and what is happening. And through his documentaries, you can see how things have changed over time. And he keeps pushing for government to actually be sincere, at least, in all the promises. Now, from the Paris Agreement to the new pact that was made in Glasgow to the most recent meeting that was held in Egypt, in Sham, on loss for damage, I cannot stand and tell you 100% of the sincerity of our leaders, global leaders. Sometimes these meetings, high profile, with all the agreements, governments of nations all signing and saying, yes, we agree, this is needful, we need to act. Yet the reality in different countries vary. For example, I would give you an example. I would talk about Nigeria, for example. President Buhari has committed, in fact, to even deforestation, and said by 2030 it will be halted in Nigeria. Now, how realistic is that? First of all, he's not going to be president after May 29th of this year. Secondly, there has been a lot of insecurity issues. And most of those guys, the terrorist issues from northern parts of Nigeria and the banditry in the northwest, north central parts, most of these people live in protected areas, nature reserves. And you wonder what magic is going to happen that will even enable people to work. Who is going out to plant trees when everyone is scared whether their life is in danger or not? So for you to come and make such bold statements when the issues of security, insecurity, I would say, are very heightened in the country, is not realistic. We have seen the commitment of the global north in saying we're going to provide climate finance for the global south, a continent like Africa. But I have said it last year, I'm still repeating it this year. We still cannot see a clear path of how this finance will come and how it is going to support people that have lost a lot. Last year, there was huge floods in Bayelsa of Nigeria. Huge floods. People lost, I think hundreds of people lost their lives. Hundreds of people lost, millions lost property. And I don't think up till now that any of the climate finance money has gone to these people. We have been doing campaigns. We did campaigns here even last year during the Friends of the Earth conference. I was one of the speakers, and we did campaign on climate finance to support young people and people working in to mitigate climate change, to be provided with money in a very transparent way. But we don't see the money going to them yet. So when you talk about sincerity of purpose, yes, we appreciate people like David Attenborough, bless him, and many others. The youth are talking. People like Greta are talking. We have our own Gretas here in Wales. But who is really doing something? We need to push and push and push and push. We run campaigns here. We did the winter campaign. Now we've just done the nature campaign. Over 300 organizations have signed to Seneth, and the letter has gone, I think, 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago. So we keep doing our campaigns. But whether or not there will be the change that is required, I can't answer that. But I'm not going to give up. I'll just keep doing my thing. Also working with other organizations to keep pushing.
What do you think actually has to be done?
I don't think it's still is any magic. It's not going to be different from what we're doing. So you educate, you raise awareness. In Africa, for example, many people don't understand when you talk about climate change. They don't understand what you're saying. But it's easy for you to relate it to, things that they can identify, like the changes in rainfall patterns, how it has changed over time. Because when you talk about climate change, you talk about at least 20, 25 years change of weather parameters, whether it's temperature or rainfall. So you can draw attention of people like farmers can easily tell you. They understand what is climate change. But many people in the cities, they think that just scientists are just talking and they just cannot relate. So one of the things we're doing is actually to try to raise awareness about climate change, make people understand how things are changing and the need to mitigate. We have been pushing that. The easiest thing probably is pushing for afforestation programs, plant trees. But you see, when people plant trees and don't have other forms of options to use for heating and lighting and cooking, they still go to those trees that are now saplings or whatever, cut them down and still use them. So education is huge, but also advocacy is important for governments to do something. What usually happens is that our leaders don't have the political will. They have other things that are important to them and that they feel are immediate. So they don't pay attention. Unfortunately, climate change is not something that you can avoid now, as we see the impacts of the things that are happening around the world. So, education, advocacy, community work. Sometimes it's just as simple as a repair cafe that we have sometimes in Bangor. It's as simple as that. Reuse stuff instead of throwing them and going for new ones. You see, because once you keep going for new things, it means that they also have to go back to the source of the resource and harvest it or extract it to make new products. But if you learn to reuse what you have, when it's spoiled, you fix it. It helps. It reduces the pressure on going to virgin resources. It's as simple as that. So,
Over the past few sentences, we've talked about education, we've talked about community, we've talked about politics, which brings me to the point where you've got yourself involved in politics by becoming a councillor in Bangor. With all the things that you've got on your plate, I have to ask why?
Oh, Glenn, I think that I have given up on myself, sort of. And I say that because I used to say, I could never do this. I could never do that. I said I would not go into third sector. I would not do not with Gwyneth Africa Society or not. I have done it. I said I would not be a councillor. I am there now. I think as I continue in my life's journey, I have come to the realization that representation is key. Now, I am a woman, I am black, I am single mother, I am Christian, I am so many things that you don't really find people with this combination. There are no many people that want to push themselves forward with this combination. And you find that with all the things that are going on, a lot of young women and girl child, they need role models. And if there are no role models, people that have done it and got it right, what is the hope for them? I come from northern Nigeria, where many people don't go to school. There's still high levels of illiteracy. Very high levels, where many times women are not called to the table for any meetings, so are still culturally not equals. And now that there are the opportunities to represent women, to represent black women, to represent Christian women, to represent northern women, where I say northern, even in Wales here, us northerners are still not so recognized like you South Walians, we're the bush people. I think it's a lot about representation. It's a lot about do it right, Sally, so that other people, other women, other girls would be able to do it also in the nearest future. I don't know whether that has answered you.
The other thing that we have to say is you're the first. You're the first black African councillor in Bangor.
Yes, I am. I didn't know about that, by the way. And also, I didn't know I was co-opted as a councillor. But I had so much pressure. People that believe, Sally, you need to do it. At the end of the day, I just said, okay, I will do it. And just like the councillorship now, I have said to myself, okay, don't draw any lines anymore. Whatever comes, just face it headlong. Yeah, it's exciting to see that I'm the first councillor, black councillor in Bangor. Never knew that I was until recently. I think it's great joy to know that.
And it's almost full circle, isn't it? Because the most recent honorary degree from Bangor University for work with the Welsh Government, it's the Council of Adult Learning, it's promoting diversity in the Bangor community, work in conservation and leadership of North Wales African Society, which basically are all the things that we've spoken about today. But that must be you must feel quite proud that the university that you came to all those years ago is now giving you an honorary degree.
Absolutely, Glenn. I at first I thought it was a joke. I opened, of course, my email. I checked my emails and saw the email. I said, what? Selected for honorary award, Doctor of Science. That is just so heartwarming, so good, Let me just quickly say that when I set out to do any of those things you have listed, in fact, some I didn't set out to do them. I was called to do them. I just thought that I was going to serve. I never thought that, an award is going to come or money is going to come no. I just set out to serve, and to be rewarded in this way is really humbling. Where in most countries in Africa, even here in Europe, you find out that honorary doctorates are given to people that are really high up achievers. Somebody said, Sally, but you're one. I don't know about that, but that's what I always thought. But to now be selected, it's really humbling. I have really enjoyed being selected. I've really enjoyed it. I'm so happy about it, and I feel that you don't have to set out to conquer the world. You just go out and be good. Just go out and help and serve and just give what you have. It doesn't have to be the best. But if you're able to help and impact and make a change, do it. Why not?
I think that just a few words that you have said yourself, and you sort of emphasised on that just then. And the words are, every little action helps. I think that's a good way of finishing. I have to thank you so much for talking to me and being so open with everything. It's been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Glenn. I've enjoyed talking to you, and I hope that maybe the listeners to this would pick one or two things, and let's make the world a better place, not only for ourselves, our families, but for everyone.